Okay, so let's go ahead and get started learning to crochet. So today I'm working with Jimmy Bean's Smart Sticks crochet hooks. I've got the 6-inch size right here, and they're pretty cool. They're aluminum crochet hooks, so they have a nice little taper off at the end here that you can see, and then each one is labeled with inch markings. That's what the stripes are. So they're, let's see if I can get that on camera. They are labeled every inch to help you kind of measure your project on the fly. And they have the size labeling. Let's see if I can get that to not glare too much. This is a 4.5 millimeter G/H US 7 hook so that I'm using today. And Smart Sticks come in this 6-inch size, but they also come in a 5-inch size, and they're color coded so that if the 5-inch fits in your hand a little better, you can recognize them easily between the sizes. They're pretty handy. So let's learn to crochet. I'm gonna start by getting a little bit of yarn going, and today I'm gonna show you all the basics for crochet. So we're gonna create a slip knot. We're gonna go through single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, and treble crochet, along with a chain. So that should give you the basics of how to do absolutely anything you need to do to get started crocheting. So I'm going to start with a slip knot, and I make a slip knot using just my fingers. So I want the tail end of my yarn in my right hand, and then the working end of my yarn in my left hand. I'm going to pull up the working yarn like this around my 2 fingers and secure the working end with my other 2 fingers, with my ring finger and my pinky finger. And then I'll take the tail and I'll make an X around my fingers. So I've made this little loop around the back of my fingers. Then with my right hand, I'll pinch through that loop, reach right through, and grab the tail end of the yarn and pull it up into a loop and just pull that tight. So that's created my slip knot. And when I pull the tail end, it tightens the knot up and makes it smaller. Let's go ahead and put that right on our crochet hook. And you want to make that snug around your hook so it still can move, but it's pretty tight around the end of it. Let me get this out of our way. You can see that a little more clearly. So every crochet project that you're going to do starts with a chain. So that's the basis of what you're doing. You're just creating a big long chain for you to work into each stitch. So for this project, I want to chain 15 so that we have a little bit of room to work with, but you can see the work that I'm doing. And your first stitch is actually your slip knot. So this counts as 1. To chain with the working yarn in my left hand, I'm going to yarn over. So I'm just pulling the yarn from back to front over the top of the crochet hook. And I'm gonna use the tip of the hook to pull that loop through the slip knot I just made. So I have 1 loop off and 1 loop on, and that's a chain. So I yarn over and pull through. And now I have 2 chains. So I'm counting that based on the number of these little tiny V's that you'll be able to see a little bit better once I get a little more going. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. I'm at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so I'm gonna pull my hook out just to show you guys. I left that loop big so that I can get back to it more easily. And let's bring this up and show you what the chain looks like. So this is the top of it, and you've got each of these little tiny V's, and each one of those is a chain stitch that you just made. So as you work, you're going to be putting your hook through both sides of that V this way to create room for your hook to pull up a loop and build your stitches. So chains are pretty easy. They're really great also for kids if you want to like make necklaces or anything like that. Pretty fun, pretty simple. So we've mastered chains and we have a good basis to start working from. Let's go ahead and make single crochets. So we're going to start with a row of single crochets. So I'm putting my hook back in. I'm going to tighten that up a little bit since I had made it pretty large. And I'm going to turn my work around. So we crocheted going this way, but now we've run out of things to do. We're at the end of our row. So we're just going to flip the whole thing over and start working back in this direction again. And I like to secure the work in my right hand, or excuse me, in my left hand, along with the working yarn, and just hold everything right there so that my right hand is free to move and manipulate the hook in all the ways that I need to do it to make things a little bit easier. So this can be a little tricky to start, but what you're going to do is start by crocheting into the second stitch from your hook. So the last chain I just did was chain number 15. I'm going to go back and work into the number 14 from the last row, if that makes sense. So you start by doing the second chain from your hook so that you create a little bit of extra room for your stitches to stand up if you're moving sideways. So let me show you how I'm going to do this. We've got our V here that I'm pointing to with my middle finger and my thumb. And I'm going to put my hook into one side and then into the second side of that V. So I inserted it through, and there's still a little bit of yarn, let me see if I can show you, on the back of the hook. So I'm working through the chain, the middle of the chain I just made. So let me show you that again. So I put my hook through one side and then the second side of that chain. And then I'm going to yarn over with the working yarn and pull a loop through that chain. So now I've got 2 loops on my hook, and they're just both sitting there, and my hook can slide pretty easily in and out of them. And then I'll yarn over one more time and use the hook to pull through both loops that were sitting there. So that's one single crochet done. So let me show you that again. I'm going to start by inserting my hook into both sides of the V in the chain I just made, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And each time I'm moving on to the next V in the chain that I made, so the next chain stitch. I'm just working my way all the way down the project. So let's go all the way to the end. Do all 15. It can be a little finicky as you're getting started. You can see that end of this, of the stitches that I've already worked, is kind of flying around while I crochet, and that's okay. If it's easier for you to hold on to the project you're making with your hand a little bit, or with your left hand, your fingers over here to stabilize things, that is totally fine. Whatever makes it easiest for you. You do want to be sure that when you're chaining or when you're making any stitch while you're crocheting, you're not pulling the yarn too tight, because that'll make those V's really difficult to get into. Oh, and you don't want to miss them either. Let's see, there we go. So I pulled up 2 loops, yarning over, pulling through 2. And I am going into both sides of my chain stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so I'm coming to the end here. You can see that I have got, let's come here. You can see that I've got just 2 V's left, and you want to be sure that you're working into the very last V, which was your original slip knot. It can be really easy to miss that one and think you're done, but if I do these last 2 stitches, it makes a very nice, very square border. You don't want a little tail hanging off. You want to make sure that you've worked into every single stitch. Oh, didn't finish my last one. There we go. Okay, so now I've got a nice row, and it's a little wiggly, and that's okay. That's because there's not much there yet, but I've got a nice row of single crochets. So 1 row done. So let's do a row of double crochets next. Once you've done single crochets, you can see that they build up, they're pretty tight, but just like with your chain, you're left with a nice row of V-shaped stitches to work into in the next one. And that'll be true for any kind of crochet stitch that you do with these basics. So how do we turn from one direction to the next? What we want to do is chain, and the number of chains that you do when you're turning is determined both by your pattern or by the kind of stitch you're going to do next. So since I'm doing double crochets next, I'm going to chain 2 before turning. So I'll chain my 2. Actually, I think you chain 3. So let's chain 3 and then turn the work. And just like on the other side, you're going to skip the first single crochet stitch that you're working into and start your next row into the second stitch of the row. This set of chains that we just did to turn is going to act as your first double crochet in this row. So then when you're coming all the way back, you'll make your last stitch into this little set of chains, and it'll keep your edges nice and neat. So let's start double crocheting. Double crocheting is very similar to single crocheting, but you will start by yarning over first. And I like to use my pointer finger or my thumb, depending on what I want to do, to secure that yarn so that I don't lose it as it slides off or goes around or whatever. So I'll start by yarning over and securing that with my finger, and then I will insert my hook into the second stitch away from my chain and pull up a loop. So now I've got 3 loops on my hook. And I'll yarn over, and I'm just going to pull that yarn over through 2, and now I've got 2 stitches left on my hook, 2 loops, excuse me, left on my hook. I'll yarn over again and pull through 2. So double crochet is twice as much yarn used as a single crochet and is twice as tall. And you can see right there, let's see if I can pull that up and let it focus a little bit on that, our chains and our double crochet right there. So let's keep doing it one more time. I'll yarn over first and secure that with my pointer finger or my thumb, insert my hook into the next stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Next stitch, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So let's do this, get a little more yarn, and do this all the way across. Okay, now I've got a row of double crochets here. And so you can see, let's take this hook out and just show you. You can see the difference between single and double crochets. The single crochets are a little bit smaller. Because we've turned our work a little bit, the single crochet row is leaning to the right, while the double crochet row, the taller one, is leaning to the left a little bit. But then on the top, we've still got our nice row of V's to work into. Okay, so the next technique is a half double crochet. Let's get a little bit more yarn. And for this one, I am going to chain 2. Nope, chain 3, always do that. And turn my work. And again, I'm working into the second stitch away from my hook. For a half double, it starts the same way as a double. You're going to yarn over, you're going to insert into that stitch, pull up a loop, and you'll have 3 loops sitting on your hook. Then you'll yarn over and pull through 3. And that's a half double crochet. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. Okay, So the half doubles use the same amount of yarn, or just about the same amount of yarn as the doubles, but they're shorter and thicker. So they're perfect for hats and stuff. So we've got a row of singles, a row of doubles, and a row of half doubles. Next, let's do triple crochets. So for these, I'm going to chain 4 and turn my work. And then I'm also going to work into the second stitch away from my hook. And half doubles can be a little confusing on the back because it looks like there's a V on the side, but then there's also a V on the top. You want to be sure you're working into this V on the top and not this kind of funky V on the side. This is not this top of the stitch. You always want to be sure you're working into the top of the stitch. Okay, so for a triple crochet, you start by yarning over once and then yarning over again. So you've wrapped the yarn around your hook twice and you have what looks like 3 loops on your hook. Then you'll enter the second stitch away from your chain and pull up a loop. So now you have 4 loops on your hook. And just like you did for a double, you'll yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So you always want to end with just the 1 loop on your hook. And that makes a nice, really tall, beautifully wrapped stitch. So let's do triples all the way across. Wrap twice, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Let's get a little more yarn here. These do use up quite a lot of yarn. So you'll yarn over once, yarn over twice, insert and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over twice, and keep chugging right along. Okay, so let's pull that out. There we go. And I'll show you all the stitches. So at your very bottom, you've got your row of chains, followed by your row of single crochets. And this is the most finicky one that we did. Lots of fiddling around, but you can see your project grows pretty quickly and it becomes easier to hold on to. So we've got our single crochets here, our double crochets here. They're just a little bit taller. Then we have our half doubles that have this nice, almost woven looking row of ridges right here. And then we have our triple crochets right at the top, and these are these tall guys. So you can see each one makes a slightly different fabric. The doubles and the triples are very tall and very airy, while the half doubles and the singles are a little bit denser and have different design features. Okay. And then say you finished your project and you're ready to clip it and tie it all off. What you would do is cut your working yarn and then take your crochet hook and yarn over with that new tail end and make a chain just like you would normally, but you'd pull that tail all the way through and pull the loop tight. And there you go. You're ready to weave in your ends.
Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing because we have a lot more yarn reviews, tutorials, and other fiber fun like that. Happy crafting!